Waves and words.
Wellen und Worte.
Exploring the depths of the human experience.
A journey of reflection and renewal. So welcome to a session where we talk about stress. We'll have a look at what it actually is, its effect on our body and soul, and of course, we present some ways to handle stress.
Great. And stress isn't just a feeling, it's a psychological response. So while some stress can be motivating, such as um, doing assessment deadlines and things like that, however, chronic stress can take a toll on our health, our relationships, and our ability to ultimately function at our best. And according to the Mental Health Foundation 2023, 74% of adults in the UK reported feeling so stressed in 2022 that they felt overwhelmed or unable to cope. And it's a statistic that really highlights the urgency of this conversation we're having today.
So when I saw that you are bringing the statistic, I was looking for some statistics about Germany. And I found a further statistic that said 2/3 would say they felt sometimes or often stressed. But this statistic is actually from 2021. And so it's 2 years older than your statistic. And it might be that the feeling of stress would have risen due to the war in Ukraine since 2022. Because I believe this is also kind of a stress factor for the whole society.
And definitely that statistic, looking at it, is during COVID as well, during the COVID time as well, which is interesting. Yeah. And I think for us in the UK as well, when you talk about the kind of society stress, we had Brexit, followed
Mm.
by COVID, followed by the war in Ukraine, Russia, etc. So yeah, so like accumulative stress. Um, and as you know, stress can manifest in many forms. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be mental. And some of the most common causes include work pressures, financial concerns, and personal relationships. So in the UK, the Health and Safety Executive, the HSE, reported that in 22-23, work-related stress, depression, or anxiety accounted for 50% of all work-related ill health cases in the UK. And so these figures remind us that stress isn't just a personal issue, it's a societal one.
Yeah, definitely. I have here some numbers for Germany and the US. In Germany, stress at work and subsequent psychological stress are reflected in early retirement statistics. So, according to a calculation by the DRV Bund, Deutsche Rentenversicherung, which is the German pension insurance, the number of early retirements due to mental disorders and mainly anxiety, depression, and other consequences of stress rose continuously between 93 and 2006.
Mm.
These early retirements have now reached the top spot among the declared causes of early retirement, with a share of over 30%. So this is the main reason why people retire earlier than they could or should be. So because of this, illnesses, sicknesses, phenomenon, those people fall out of the workforce. It also impacts their life and their life quality, of course, but it has a huge effect. And regarding the US, I also have like a financial number. So 60% of adults surveyed in the US stated that they were under severe stress at least once a week. 60% of health problems for which American adults see a doctor are caused or by or associated with stress. And the economic damage caused by stress, stress-related reduction of work and performance and production, is estimated at 300 billion US dollar annually
Wow.
for the
Wow.
US, just for the US. So
That 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 is truly crazy. It's a very stark and concerning picture that you've painted, highlighting the significant impact that stress can have both on individual well-being and national economies, which is very interesting. So going back to the information you shared about Germany and early retirement crisis, that is particularly alarming because it demonstrates a direct correlation between workplace stress and also early retirement. So the fact that mental disorders driven primarily by anxiety and depression now account for over 30% of early retirements underscores the severity of the issue that is happening in Germany, and I'm sure elsewhere. And it's certainly, I feel maybe, and you probably want to maybe add to this, but that statistic reveals a systemic problem, indicating that workplace pressures are ultimately having a profound and detrimental effect on the workforce in Germany.
when somebody goes to the doctor and asks for a sick leave, it's like an individual problem. So the
Mm,
problem couldn't handle the stress or couldn't handle the work. But as you mentioned, as it's so big, so such a large number, it also means that somehow the work, the way we work, changed in a way that it produces much more stress in people.
mm,
Yeah.
mm, definitely.
There's
And
something,
yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
so there's something called like subjectification, and this is a change in work organization where the way to find a solution for the task given is given to the worker. So I give you the task, and it's up to you to find the solution and to do it. So go find a way. This goes ahead with self-organization and self-management, which is
Mm,
nice and fine, but it's also putting much more, or it raises at the same time the stress level of the employees.
yes, because the onus is all on them, all on the employees, isn't it, to figure
Yeah.
out and find a solution to the kind of stress that they are experiencing. And going back to the US kind of figures that you shared as well, that certainly supports the findings in Germany, showing that that a significant, I would say, majority of adults experience severe stress regularly. And so there is this correlation between stress and health problems, equally is troubling. And as you mentioned, I believe 60% of doctor visits linked to stress related issues. And that shows how stress is not just a mental issue, but a very real physical health issue as well, which is quite daunting, quite a scary stat. Um, and you mentioned also $300 billion
Yes,
this causes an annual economic damage in the US. So again, this is a financial burden associated with stress, whether we're talking about whether it's on the hospital services or the health insurance payouts, or if the companies are having to pay out to support any health related issues as well. And certainly that figure encompasses a massive loss in productivity, which creates absenteeism and certainly then results in increased healthcare costs, all of which, as we know, have very far-reaching implications for businesses and society
Mm.
as a whole. So the level of economic damage is a very strong argument for businesses and governments as well to invest in the well-being of their employees.
Mm. Yes, I see. And also to reflect the own organization of work. So that maybe subjectification is not always the key to train um, juniors to get
Yeah.
self-managed and self-organized. I mean,
Mm.
we learn through imitation, and this means I see what um, a senior worker is doing or how he is doing something. I'm just reading a book about a woman who succeeded in building a company in the US, and she just described in the chapter I read that she was copying the way of the most successful salesperson in the beginning when she was completely unsuccessful, and she just copied the way of that woman, and then she started. And the next year, she was of that company the most successful person. But I'm just saying, so we learn through imitation, and it's not a
Mm.
solution to say, hey, find yourself a solution.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So again, it's a major issue, and through the work that I do, um, there is a lot of companies trying to tackle this issue. And you mentioned how some employees are told to go away and find their own solutions. But what I found over the years and through companies working with companies is that the best solutions come from a combination of top down and bottom up. So from the head managements and leadership teams to the employees working
Mhm.
collaboratively together, that almost always brings out the best solution. So and this is important because if you've got employees going away and coming up with these initiatives, but the manager or the CEO doesn't take them on and doesn't support it, then those initiatives just die out straight away. And then if you've got leadership coming up with initiatives, but enforcing them on employees in a
Mhm.
way that employees don't feel is right or comfortable, then again, that those initiatives fade out over time as well. So yeah, just going back to the stats that you've shared, that it's clear that stress is not just a personal issue, but it's a significant public health and economic concern. People can bring stress from their private lives into work and from work into their private lives and vice versa. And often these two kind of personal stress and society and work stress can often overlap and become one of the same thing. So it's very important for businesses and governments to take these statistics that you've shared very seriously and help create environments that promote the well-being of people. And we've seen this to be very important since COVID um, ha had happened in the UK, and there's a lot of research and data now that shows that a lot of young people now who had to lock down and be at home find it difficult to deal with emotions and stress and are more anxious than say the previous generation before them who didn't experience having multiple lockdowns and lack of access to education and socializing and so forth.
So is it a stress or an anxiety caused by not knowing if someone matches the goals, or what kind of fear is it?
Yeah, I think probably not having the tools and knowledge first to deal with stress, um, and then not having the support to deal with stress, and then not having the wider environment that understands that people get stressed and anxious and they need to take time off or they need to take a step back from time to time. So not having those multiple elements in place just comes together and creates a perfect storm for stress to really kind of get out of hand and get worse.
Okay. And have you, when you were reading the research and the studies, did they also offered something like a solution for this?
Yeah, and the solutions, again, they're pretty much um, in the UK. We have a lot of things. There's a big initiative at the moment of getting people to be outside more.
Hmm.
Amongst nature more. At least I think the stat or the saying goes at least 20 minutes a day can have a very positive impact on your health, your mental health, which relating to stress and how you deal with stress and so forth. Um, and equally, as we spoke in our last episode, being creative is a very good stress reliever as well.
Mm. So you said 20 minutes?
Yeah, I think that's what the kind of the the basic baseline is, that you should be outside amongst the trees and listen to the birds sing for at least 20 minutes a day, and being creative at least 20 minutes a day as well in some form.
Yeah, I found a statistic that said just 5 minutes of exercise in a green environment improves your mood and self-esteem remarkably well and relieves stress. Um, like a study with 1,250 subjects. So
Mm.
just 5 minutes, they say. But I mean, maybe exercise, they mean like really doing some sport, and maybe 20 minutes just walk around. It's maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a that's an interesting one. Only 5 minutes is needed, and I think during like particularly going back to COVID, there was a big emphasis on exercising at home.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to set specific time aside to do yoga, meditation, or do some exercise. And what became very popular was the kind of high intensive exercises, like HIIT exercises. Um, and you can do it within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and that would be a good enough exercise for the day to really kind of get the energy flowing and making you feel less stressed as well. So 5 minutes, 20 minutes, as long as you are outside and you're doing some exercise in some form that gets your heart rate up. That's the purpose of exercise. Yeah, anything could be good for that. You found some interesting information with regards to gender differences and stress, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. So, regarding the causes of stress, there is the first place is stress in school, study, and job, with an average of 47%. And the second place goes to high demands on oneself.
Mm,
So the first one is an external cause, and the second one is an internal cause, which I find very interesting. So, and if you now look at the differences in women and men, so for both, the first cause was 47%, and the second one was 46%. And for the first cause, the job, 49% of men said that this is their number one cause for stress, and women only 45%. And for the second one, the internal one, high demands on oneself, men only stated this with 36% and women with 55%. And then I'm wondering, do the women internalize the demands that the job is claiming? Or like, I just think it's interesting to look at this.
mm, mm. I that's very interesting, and I guess my first question back to you, as a woman, what do you think? Do you think women internalize more, put more pressure on themselves?
I feel it's hard to generalize.
Yeah.
Um, and I know or I believe that I have high demands on myself.
Mm,
I don't know if every woman has this. I know that also men have this. It's hard for me to say. So I can only
yeah.
say for myself as an individual, I have high demands on myself and I am a woman. So
But it's clear that school, study, and the job, they all have high demands on oneself, and can be dominant stress factors affecting, I guess, nearly half of the population. Um, so again, this is further highlight of the pressures individuals feel in both their professional, but also their personal lives as well. The slight difference in school, study, and job stress, with men reporting slightly high levels, maybe could, I don't know, reflect traditional gender roles and expectations in the workforce, that are still exist today.
yeah.
But the the disparity in high demands on oneself is particularly striking. Women's considerably higher percentage suggest a tendency towards self-imposed pressure and perfectionism. That's what's the stats might be suggesting, in that sense. But again, as you said, we are all individuals. It's hard, very hard to uh, generalize as well. It's plausible that women internalize not only workplace demands but also societal expectations
Mm.
related to their roles as professionals, caregivers, and partners. And so there's perhaps added dimensions, to the kind of expectations and pressures that women have on themselves, internalized, but also perhaps from the workforce as well, because traditionally, and probably maybe women feel this way, or maybe there's data and stats that support this, but we all know that if a woman gets pregnant and takes time off work, then her career options are more limited. They're limited after she takes that time of work, compared to men who don't take that much time off work, and so
Mm.
forth, and perhaps traditionally have less caregiving responsibilities. So again, this could perhaps lead to a feeling uh, of needing to excel in all areas, for women, resulting in a much heightened self-criticism and stress. So it's possible that women feel that they need to work harder than men in the workplace to gain the same level of recognition. And then there's that balance of work, childcare, and so forth, which just dramatically increases stress levels as well. I'm guessing those are could be some factors that play a part in why women have a kind of higher pressure, internalized pressure, on themselves.
I totally agree that it can be a declaration for this um, phenomenon. Yeah, so it's clear that when I came back to work after the birth of my son, I pushed myself to keep on track, to not lose any relations. But on the other hand, they were also treating me a bit like, so take it slow, you just gave birth to a child, which made me feel a bit like, okay, but I want to work. So, we were well organized. We had an au pair that was taking care of our child and so on. We were paying for it. So, and it made me a bit, so they were putting me a bit aside just because I had given birth like half a year or some months ago, and I was fully there, but I felt like mm, they didn't really want me to be fully there, which was interesting, which is maybe still this traditional image that is still working.
Mm.
So and it was really, they didn't mean it in a bad way. It was really like in a good way. They, but of course, this on the same time put even more pressure on me to show that I'm able. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so your the information you shared, the data that you shared there certainly suggests that women may well definitely experience a greater burden of self-imposed stress, potentially due to internalized societal and professional expectations. Um, and this certainly highlights the need for greater awareness and support for women's mental health in both the workplace and society. And I definitely think there's more scope for more research that is needed to fully understand the root causes of these gender differences in stress, but also cultural differences in stress as well. I mean, and we've come across research as well that if you are of an ethnic minority,
Mhm.
again, you feel more stress or more need to prove that you are equally as good or equally good as your job and so forth. So there's so many dynamics
Mm,
um, to this kind of situation, this research as well. But just purely looking at men versus women, there's certainly um, some interesting dynamics at play there, and that's been going on for many a time,
mm.
really. And it seems we still haven't solved.
So I totally agree that this is also an issue. Like, how do you say, um, ethnic differences? I guess also age can be a stress factor. Like, older people might feel not so worthy anymore if they are in a competitive environment. Still, I don't want to say men don't have stress at all. There's also, like as you said, they have still have the pressure to fulfill the traditional role. So even though our society is doing everything it can, or it seems like the society is doing everything it can to produce a fairer environment, still we have very traditional roles. And I read that when couples get parents, they fall back into traditional roles. Like the man is working to earn the family, so he's earning the money to feed. He's earning the money to feed the family. The woman is staying home, taking care of the child and the household, and so on. And I guess like to earn money for two is also, or for more people, and for the house is also putting a huge pressure on someone.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree, and I think if I look at most people, I guess I know. I think you're right. Most people just fall into that kind of traditional setup at home, or it's whoever earns the most money, and then that person continues to work, and the other person defaults to looking after the child or children. But as we know in society, men tend to be paid more, or get the promotion. So then again, that just further reinforces who is going to take up the kind of childcare responsibility. But it would be interesting, as you mentioned, it would be interesting if there are age-related differences in these kind of results that you've shared, and then a wider look at cultural and societal factors that play the kind of significant role in shaping gender specific stress responses as well. And as well as looking at any trends and individual experiences going forward as well. There's so much to discuss on this topic, definitely.
Mhm. Okay, so let's maybe have a look at what stress actually is after we talked so much about causes of stress and what it does to our society.
Hmm.
So I did some research and I like to start with a conceptual definition or conceptual analysis, and because I studied literature before.
Hmm.
And stress actually goes back to the Latin term stringere, which means to tense. Um, and of course, if you imagine a muscle, if a muscle tenses, it also needs to detense.
Mm.
So, as much time as a muscle is tense, it also needs, I guess, as much time to detense to get in a working condition.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Scientifically, there is an American psychologist and physiologist, which is called Walter Cannon, who used the term stress the first time, 1914, relating to alarm systems. And another scientist, Hans Selye, he based his works on Cannon's works and developed the theory of stress as a physical or bodily state under pressure, marked by tension and resistance against external stimuli.
Mm.
And he referred the term stress also from physics, where it is defined as an unspecific reaction of the body to every kind of demand. And in material science, stress is designating the change of a material through external force. What follows is tension, distortion, and bending. So stress is a situation when a pressure is working on a material. So
Mm.
imagine pressure working on coal. Coal becomes a diamond, finally.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's actually power, pressure, like really something strong working on a material. And now imagine this or take this image, like, and take it to a human being or like just a living creature.
Mm.
And of course, it has an impact on this creature.
Interesting. So, so let me just detox this.
Yeah, yeah,
So stress originating from the Latin stringere,
stringere.
stringere. So it means to tense, to squeeze. Um, but as I'm understanding it, it can be a multifaceted phenomenon. So conceptually, it signifies a state of tension. Um, but I guess um, scientifically, it's probably defined as the body's non-specific response to a demand, essentially. So there's like a parallel to physical stress on the material world.
Yeah. So actually, yeah. So later in psychology, there came something like it's called the cognitive turn, where they
Okay.
where they took more the cognition into account, and then coping and appraisal got more important in the series. I just
Okay.
very interesting this model of in material science that you put pressure on a material And if you transfer this like to the body or to the mind, that
Mm.
also bend something. And if you go also to the effects that stress can have, there is also something very physical, one of the effects or the results, which is the reduction of the brain mass.
Mm.
Restriction of the emotional level and circulatory disorders in the brain. So, but just a reduction of the brain mass is the physical aspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm following. I'm following.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not just in our mind or something, but they did research and they found there's also something going back,
So
something.
it's
Hmm,
so it's a physiological response. So
kind of.
yeah. So the shift from um the a best way to fight and flight is a response that is associated with, I guess, symptoms of stress.
Yeah.
Um, I guess it's a good way to try and understand that. So like yeah, no, you please continue. Are there anything, certain things that are that really kind of put stress on someone? Are there any particular stresses or any particular situations that really highlight the information you shared with us?
But I can still tell you what is actually happening when our body and mind is changing from a relaxed status into a stressed status. The cerebrum, whose reaction is very slow, is repressed, and the influence of the brainstem is coming to the fore. So the brainstem is very, very old. So we have like very, very old reactions coming to the fore. What does it mean? The reaction is faster. So the body or the person can react much faster, but with a higher error rate. And we react especially to stressors like loud yelling, sudden change of brightness, sudden sounds, honking. So everything that is coming to our senses and is like making us um, very, yeah, how to say, very, very excited. But of course, nowadays we also have other kind of stressors. We also have this kind of permanent stress. Which is not so loud or not so exciting, but which is on us for like continuously. And I think this is what in our world today is putting the stress or is producing the stress to us. So we have something like chronic conflicts in the couple relationship and death of a close person, separation, still, of course, noise, lack of money, lack of creative opportunities, lack of interest in work, bullying at work, in school, shift work, because the brain has problems with the changing sleeping hours. Fear of not being enough, fear of failure, perfectionism, as you mentioned also earlier, sleep deprivation, overstimulation, mental problems, which I find very interesting, is also stress caused by threats to self. It is something that is actually, so it's a very new research, but it's actually, I think it's very plausible. So the self is a construct and it's actually my identity. And if something is putting pressure on my identity, on myself, of course it stresses me. And I'm working to keep this image of myself, this identity. So it's very plausible to me. Yeah, and then what I already mentioned earlier is the change in work organization, where the way to find a solution for the task is given to the worker, subjectification.
Physiologically, it involves the complex interplay between you mentioned the cerebrum and the brain, so the brain stem. Um, so that can lead, I guess, to, the error-prone type of reactions to stress and so forth. And stresses, as you mentioned, um, can range from major life events to everyday irritants, um, encompassing, I guess, everything from financial worries and workplace pressures to societal or social um, isolation, um, also technological overload. So the individual's ability to cope with these stresses depends, I guess, on their personal qualities and cognitive capacities. Here is what we're talking about as well. And
Yeah,
chronic stress can manifest in a wide range of physical, emotional, and cognitive symptoms, which impact everything from brain function and even to immune response behavior and social interaction. So it's a quite a multifaceted, complex um, thing that stress is. It's not just simply, oh, I can't meet this deadline. Oh,
yeah,
have a wobble, sit down. There's so many different complex overlapping things in relation to stress through the research um, that you've just kind of shared with us. Um,
yeah,
yeah, and yeah,
definitely.
and
Yeah, and I think I want to put especially a point or focus on the fact that, of course, there's many things happening in our cognition and in our in our mind.
mm,
But on the other hand, it can have a very strong effect on our physics, on our physical status. And so long-term stress can lead to heart attacks, it can produce
mm,
cancer, it can weaken the immune system, produce a magnesium and calcium deficiency, skin rash, heart palpitations, sudden hearing loss, yeah, strokes.
wow, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so stressors like n loud noises, sudden changes in brightness, I guess they do underscore the primal kind of nature to these reactions that we have. And as you mentioned, you've listed some, and I'm sure the list of stressors is extensive. And
Definitely.
that I get that no that I guess that not only just it reflects the diverse challenges that we have in modern day life. And you mentioned the inclusion of subjectification, and then mentioned techno stress. Um, just further highlights the evolving nature of workplace stresses as well. Um, and I guess even being under challenged and being bored can cause stress. And I think that is often overlooked as
Mm,
well. And I do see it. It's sometimes when I'm teaching that if we have to teach, sometimes we have a class of a diverse range of students that all come at different entry points and different levels of abilities. And sometimes you see the ones that get it and can move on and just totally grasp what you're talking about. You can see that they start to begin to feel under challenged, or they start to get
mm,
bored if they don't have specific challenges set towards their level of their ability. And I think that's definitely a very important and often overlooked element of what can cause stress as well. Um, and then you mentioned some of the reactions, so the
mm,
description of stress or panic or crisis. Reactions, I guess, is comprehensive as well. So it could be, and as you mentioned, it could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be
Mhm.
cognitive, there could be behavioral symptoms, and all of which have long-term health consequences,
Yeah,
such as what you mentioned, such as increased risk of cardiovascular disease, heart disease, and that is definitely very, very concerning.
yeah. So I think we have gathered enough reasons to look at how to replug and how to release stress, or how to take care and how to get more aware of our body to prevent ourselves to get in those situations. Yeah, so how can we recharge and let go of the tension, Barry?
Um, if stress is taken over, here are some practical steps you can take. Certainly, prioritizing rest is super important. Sleep is crucial for managing stress levels. When we have a lack of sleep, we feel irritated more easily, and we can become more stressed and respond in ways that we wouldn't normally respond to situations. I think it's important to have a digital detox, so take a break from screens and social media. We all know now a lot of research about blue light and how social media can raise anxiety levels as well. You know, looking at other people's lives and constantly comparing and seeing other people happy and stuff like that. Social media is a filter in that
Mhm.
sense. I think, as we mentioned before, nature therapy is very
Yeah.
important. Spending time outdoors can have a very profound calming effect, and there's a lot of research now that supports that, and some of which you mentioned earlier, Caroline, as well. And then setting boundaries as well, learning when to say no when needed to protect your own personal time and your own personal rest time as well is super important as well. And saying and learning when to say no, or I can't do that, or I can't do that within this time frame at work as well is super important. And
Mhm.
having those boundaries set um, as well within the workplace amongst colleagues and so forth. But I guess for those that who love structure, um, I tend to like to do things in 2 to 4 weeks, kind of plans. So a 4 week stress management challenge. Week one, start a daily deep breathing practice. So meditate or just take a moment just to step back and relax. I believe I mentioned in our first podcast, creativity,
Yeah.
a friend of mine or someone I met would always, every time finish work, would come home and then just sit down for 5 to 10 minutes before doing anything else, just to let all the sounds and the noise and the stress and the energy just kind of just be released before then going on to cook or clean or whatever else
Mhm.
they did. So just find 5 to 10 minutes each day just to sit. If you want to breathe, if you want to
Mhm.
meditate, that's totally fine. Um, Something that my wife said she likes to do from time to time, so this could be week two, is to start to
Mhm.
keep a gratitude journal. So write three things you are grateful for each day. And then as you realize over time, you realize that actually you have many things to be grateful for each day. The fact that you're able to wake up every day, or you're able to have a conversation with someone and so forth. Um, Week three, engage in a creative activity, which much of which we covered in our last podcast. So you can
Mhm.
paint, you can write, or you can play music. So viewers can't see this, but Carolyn can see this weird and rather amateur kind of scribbled painting that I did a while back with my youngest, and I was thinking of DNA, I was thinking of waves, I was thinking of how nature has spirals, and I just quickly just painted down with random colors that kind of thought and feeling, and even something as simple as that could help take away stress. And then lastly, week four, and I think we've mentioned this earlier in today's podcast, is just to take a mindful walk and just be really present, focus on the sounds, the sights, the sensations around you, the birds singing, just being present and a part of nature, I think can have a really kind of calming and relaxing kind of effect on you. And I like to go for a walk every day. I try to fit in a walk, whether it's walking to work or whether it's if I'm not going into the office, whether it's taking a walk in the park at lunchtime, always just to kind of have that kind of detox from the screens and work and something. I guess just remember, stress is not something to battle alone. So if you do feel really stressed, please do seek some support from someone or somewhere, and just allow yourself space to breathe and be kind to yourself. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to always achieve certain things in your life. Give some space for leeway for failure and so forth.
Yeah. So, regarding the practical ways you mentioned, I had the impression that many of the ways you mentioned also produce or help becoming more aware of oneself, because I think being aware of yourself and of your boundaries is something like the basis to see when your limits are passed or when you should take a step back and realize, okay, there's a pressure situation and so on. And also, um, I guess being present, the last thing you mentioned, something that I heard of is very much helping people getting a clear mind relating to the world, to the actual time, and letting go of stress, of depression, of bad thoughts, and so on. Just one last question to you, Barry, because I know you're also a marketing and communications director at the Global Center for Healthy Workplaces. Can you name one thing healthy organizations are doing to produce a healthy environment?
Yeah, so there's many things, but I think as mentioned before, it's when an organization is beginning their journey to create a healthy and safe and happy and productive work environment.
Mm,
It's super important that these workplace health programs are developed in collaboration with the employees.
mm,
And so when you do that, you can ensure that you are trying to, or you are going to create a program that is relevant and is of importance to your employees. So the more we know that the more happy employees are, and that could involve things such as having time to do volunteering or offering health courses or just on the baseline offering a good salary, because we know if we're financially secure and we feel financially secure, that makes our lives much more happy as well. So I would say that the most important thing is developing programs in collaboration with the employees, because at the Global Center for Healthy Workplaces, we do help organizations tackle stress by guiding them on creating healthier work environments. And this is done through certification programs, resources, case studies. We provide strategies that focus on mental and physical well-being. And each company in different countries will have different unique challenges that might be based on the location or the culture and
Mm.
so forth. So in this regard, we host an annual global summit where workplace health leaders share best practices for stress management, for health and safety, and other workplace health elements. And a lot of the work we do are based on the WHO, the World Health Organization, healthy framework, a
Mhm.
healthy workplace framework. And ultimately, these initiatives that we do aim to foster workplace cultures that prioritize health and then ultimately help reduce stress and promoting overall well-being. So it may not just be one thing, it's many different things, but I would say that the most important thing, as mentioned, is to work in collaboration with your employers to develop a workplace health program that meets all the needs or meets the most of the needs of your employees within the workplace.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. So it's actually the interaction.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Barry, and thanks to the audience for joining us today. We hope this episode has risen your awareness regarding stressful situations in your life and how important it is to take your time to release, to get to know your own boundaries, your own limits, and to take care of your own.
And yeah, thank you for everyone for joining us today and pleasure uh, talking about stress with you, Carolyn. And until next time, I hope all of you may you all find peace and joy and inspiration in every moment of each of your day.